In today's biased news, Turkish elections reach their conclusion, the DPRK preps to launch their first spy satellite, and China sends their first civilian to space. Turkey's President Erdogan has officially extended his 2 decades in power after the elections on Sunday. Results show Kılıçdaroğlu won 47.9% of the vote to Erdogan's 52.1%, a closer race than previous elections. The opposition believed they had a strong chance of unseating Erdogan, reversing his policies and introducing liberalizing and pro-Western reforms after Turkey's cost of living and earthquake crises. As political tensions rose, both campaigns took on increasingly nationalistic tones in recent months, most clearly with the opposition promising to force Syrians and other refugee populations to leave Turkey. Early in his career, Erdogan and his party, AKP, sponsored so-called democratic and market-friendly reforms in an effort to join the EU. This was praised by liberals at home and abroad in light of Turkey's history with large military interference in government matters. Likewise with addressing the rights of women and minorities. This political course changed in the early 2010s, as nationwide anti-government protests and a 2016 coup attempt triggered measures deemed increasingly authoritarian. These include the jailing of dissidents, political dismissals of those tied to a US-backed religious movement, a breakdown in dialogue concerning the Kurdish peace process, as well as increased centralization of powers within the office of the president. In the past few years, Erdogan has lost both Istanbul and Ankara in local elections. He currently promises the introduction of subsidized energy bills and increases to pensions, public worker salaries, and the minimum wage. He also leans on his public infrastructure building image, with the building of bridges, hospitals, and prestige projects, particularly in the military. Kılıçdaroğlu's defeat has disappointed Turkey's NATO allies, as Erdogan has blocked Sweden's ascension into NATO, as well as maintained ties with Russia through political dialogue and joint building projects between the two countries. As Erdogan's victory extends his tenure as the longest-serving leader since the founding of modern Turkey, the country's currency, the lira, has slipped towards a new record low against the dollar. This follows a weakening of more than 6% since the start of the year, for a currency that has lost more than 90% of its value over the past decade, due to recurrent bouts of inflation and crises of overproduction. Stuck between nationalist appeals and superficial reforms meant to appease Western economic interests, the Turkish people are yet again left out to dry as inflation continues to eat through their living standards and economic inequality skyrockets. In the US, Biden and McCarthy meet over the tentative deal on raising the debt ceiling, a make-it-or-break-it moment for the US economy. The stock market's response, though, may not be what the talking heads expect. Despite the risks associated with a potential default on US debt, the stock market has largely ignored them. In short, the market may experience a turbulent period immediately after a debt ceiling deal is signed, as the Treasury replenishes its cash reserves. Historical precedent suggests that the market could take months to recover from any volatility caused by the debt ceiling negotiations, and confidence in the financial system will likely suffer. As always, those in power will be insulated from the fallout of their actions, the brunt of the suffering falling on the already poor and marginalized. In Asia, North Korea says they have completed their first military spy satellite, and leader Kim Jong-un has approved final preparations for the launch. Japan has responded by stating that it will indiscriminately shoot down any North Korean missiles entering its territory. The irony is not lost on rational observers that Japan has multiple spy satellites dedicated specifically to observing the DPRK. Over in the Balkans, the so-called NATO peacekeeping troops have been deployed in multiple Serb-majority towns in Kosovo, after conflict erupted between the Serbian minority and the Kosovo-Albanian police. The Serbian population refuses to accept Albanian mayors in its cities after having totally boycotted the last municipal elections. Whatever happens next, it's clear that NATO's soldiers are only serving to heighten the tension. In Hong Kong, the Civic Party, a major anti-government political group that played an instigating role in the mass protests and riots in Hong Kong, announced its dissolution on Saturday. Some experts have noted that its disbanding probably serves as an attempt to, quote, cover up its illegal funding from foreign forces and to destroy evidence to evade legal responsibility. In Ukraine, new explosions rock Kyiv a day after Russia launched the largest drone attack on the city since the start of the invasion. Overnight Russian strikes hit a military facility in the region of Khmelnytsky in western Ukraine. as reported by the administration on Monday in a rare admission of military targets being struck. While the conflict rages on, encouraged and worsened by Western funding, normal people continue to suffer on both sides. The current children's death toll of the war is 483. And in positive news, in China, the first civilian is set to go to space. The passenger, a payload expert, will take off from a satellite launch center in northwest China on Tuesday. China continues to offer cooperation with the West in scientific space endeavors. All the US has to do is put the interest of progress and peace over geopolitical bitterness. The Chinese space program has made remarkable breakthroughs in recent years, and it's an exciting time to be a fan of space exploration. That's all for today. We'll be back day after tomorrow with more news. If you'd like to see episodes with more in-depth analysis, consider supporting the show on Patreon so we can grow and expand.